Hello and welcome to Aging Matters. This program is sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Barlet and I am the Public Outreach and Advocacy Manager at the agency. Thanks for being with us tonight. It is starting of a new year, January 2016, and many of us have made some resolutions this year, some to eat healthy, some to clean out basements and drawers and things like that, and other of us once again resolved to be healthier or more physically active, physically fit. So tonight's show is titled Resolving to Stay Fit, and I'm going to add Get Fit in 2016. So welcome, and I want to introduce my guest this evening. Christopher Weiss is with us, and he is a physical therapist with a doctor in physical therapy. He is the director of the Doctor of Physical Therapy program at Alvernia University, and Chris also owns the Weiss Physical Therapy in Kutztown. So thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate your time and sharing some key ways that we can kind of get fit, stay fit, and really why. We all say we should, but let's go right on to why should we do that. Looking at the resolutions, the physical health is certainly a key component or a part of our overall health and well-being. So tell us a little bit more about, when we're talking physical health, why, what are some of the other pieces of overall wellness?
Sure. So, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And I think as we all resolve in 2016 to get in better shape, I think that certainly physical fitness is one component of really wellness in general. And so we think of fitness as really including things like emotional well-being and emotional health. We think of social well-being and social interactions that we have and our level of health relative to that. We can think of spiritual health, and so certainly health has many dimensions to it. Today, really what we're going to be talking about is more kind of this component of physical fitness and physical health, but appreciate that it certainly is just one component of multiple dimensions, really, of what wellness and health is all about.
Good, yeah, and thank you. I'm glad you pointed that out because we do all resolve many different things. Some of us work on some of those independently, but it is part of an overall well-being of overall state of health for all of us and all of those components. So in looking at, physical fitness and again, maybe you can tell us, physical activity. We talk exercise, the buzzwords. There's exercise, there's physical activity, physical fitness. Is there a range there? Are there levels to that before we get into the components of physical fitness?
Yeah, so certainly, when we think about how to change patterns of behavior, and we look at kind of the new year and trying to become more physically active and physically fit, a lot of times we have this kind of conception that we have to get involved in physical fitness in a very formal fashion. So we have to find a gym or we have to have certain specialized equipment. All of us fall victim to watching the commercials on TV, the infomercials about the newest and latest and greatest kind of piece of equipment. And really, a lot of times, what's required to really improve our physical well-being sometimes really does not require a lot. And there are things that we can do easily at home with even just the use of several simple pieces of equipment. And so, we really just kind of strive to encourage, especially as we get older, physical activity. If we can get the heart rate pumping a little bit, if we can get muscles working a little bit, all of those things really can add to our overall level of physical fitness, and we don't always really need all those fancy pieces of equipment that sometimes we talk about and we hear about.
And the physical activity obviously can be in many different forms, in many different ways. As you said, some things are just simple exercises in the home. Others might be in a gym, but others could be even just walking, things that are going to keep us, as you said, more cardio fitness. So if we're looking at revitalizing, reproving, restoring, improving, setting goals and targets for physical fitness, let's think about that just before we kind of talk about more about the components and maybe the benefits. I know we don't have, we're not going to focus too much on that totally tonight since we have done in the past, but obviously there are benefits.
Correct.
Certainly to doing physical fitness, being physically fit, doing kind of physical activities.
Yeah, so kind of like how physical fitness is one component of wellness, we can really think, when we look specifically at physical fitness, of being really consisting of several different areas or several different dimensions. So, we could look at doing exercises that are specifically designed to improve muscular performance, either muscle strength or muscle endurance. And depending on specifically what we're looking at targeting, we may alter our exercises just ever so slightly to be able to enhance one or the other dimension.
Okay.
We could look at exercise, for example, to work on, you mentioned kind of cardio, vascular fitness. So anything that kind of gets the heart rate pumping and kind of increases and elevates the heart rate oftentimes has an effect on cardiorespiratory endurance. Many times for seniors, we look at the concept of balance. So, as we get older, we kind of lose not only muscle strength, but sometimes we lose a little bit of the balance issue. And so, certainly working on balance. And so when we look at, physical fitness, even though we don't need the fancy equipment, we can really think about multiple ways. And just by altering the number of repetitions, the way that we do the exercise, kind of looking at what type of effect we can have on either the muscle or the mobility and range of motion of the joint, or really what we can do in regards to heart rate. Tweaking or altering some of those things a little bit can sometimes make a difference and allow us to be able to engage in an exercise program that really specifically meets our needs.
And I think the practical piece of that, if I might add, because you're saying about balance, it's amazing how you can walk every day and then go to stand on one leg, and then maybe let go what you're holding on, and we can fall over. It's amazing how that happens that quickly. So the practical things, it's improving those things for the benefits of staying on our feet, for example, with balance, or strength and the flexibility, so that we have a program called Healthy Steps for Older Adults, which is a falls prevention program. So certainly we want to make sure seniors, the component is some exercises in that as well to improve that. And the cardio with the heart, some other reasons to do it physically that come into play, or emotionally, or whatever. How does it relate? How does that physical fitness, the improvement, the physical activity relate to, again, why, the other benefits? So it might improve our cardio. What does that mean?
Yeah, so sometimes we think that, because we're on this path, all of us are getting older, we think sometimes that we're committed to then, living, our life with a reduced level of fitness. And I think that one of the more important things that we really want to communicate with our program this evening is to allow individuals, sitting at home that are listening, to really get the concept that, there's a lot of life yet to live. And that there are things that you can actually do and differences that you can make. And so, it's not just, something to do, but when we think about physical fitness, we can really look at it having some positive effects that not only do some of the things that we're talking about here, but really from a safety perspective, when we talk about balance, there are significant changes that can be made in enhancing our balance by engaging in certain activities. And so, if we can prevent falls, if we can improve efficiency, if we can improve strength and endurance and allow ourselves to get to the level where we can kind of go up and down stairs easier and up and down curbs and get outside of the house, that physical component really enhances the emotional component, the social component. So, when we get that physical, underway and we start to see those improvements, that's, I think, when people really begin to see the impact that can have on other dimensions of their life as well. And so we want to encourage people to kind of, begin to get moving. Even at the very basic level, just getting more active is very helpful at getting on the track to really feeling overall more healthy and well in 2016. And
I'm glad you said that, because yes, I think once you start doing some of those, you do see the impact on the other areas. And in reverse, we also, it's, I have to exercise now, or I have to get up and do something. And yet, it actually hurts more to not. I mean, we lose that muscle and the strength and those abilities when we are sitting idle doing nothing, right?
Yeah, and what the research really seems to find is that even in the older population, changes in muscle strength in regards to even size of the muscle and function of the muscle can really change. So it's not that we're getting older in regards to why maybe our muscles aren't functioning as well. Sometimes it's related to more of the level of activity. And so sometimes physical restrictions inhibit individuals' ability to kind of become more active. But even at a lower level, activity is something that almost everybody is able to engage in.
Okay, so how do we get started? What should we do if okay, now we're all charged and ready to go. So what are the basics? How should we get started?
Sure.
What should we keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, safety is always first, so we always want to think about obviously being safe with the activities that we engage in. I always recommend as a disclaimer to make sure that you're in contact with your physician and making sure that they've given you approval to be able to move forward with a particular exercise regimen.
Okay.
That way, they're ensuring that from a physical perspective, your body is able to handle the demands of exercise. So that's obviously the first key, I think, in regards to engaging in such a program. But then just by way of just general guidelines and principles, I think some people have a perception of no pain, no gain. So it's got to hurt in order to be effective.
Oh.
And so we really, and when we're doing physical therapy with individuals and so forth, our goal is always to engage and increase physical activity without actually producing pain. So muscle soreness, sometimes we can live with, but if we're actually getting pain or pain that lasts for a period of time, certainly we want to hold back or modify the exercise program. Other guidelines are important. Obviously, if there's any dizziness or faintness while you're performing the exercises, that's an indication your body telling you, that you're overtaxing it,
okay.
and that may be an indication for you to kind of hold back on that. Starting slowly is always a good idea. If you haven't exercised in years and you're about to embark on an exercise program, beginning to kind of go slowly. And really with the exercise we're talking about, it's something that most people can do a little bit of every day. So, and a lot of people, what ends up happening is they undertrain. So they'll do an exercise, but often they won't do it to the magnitude that actually makes changes.
Yes.
And so we want to kind of be real careful about making sure that we're overtraining, but also making sure that we're not undertraining as well.
Yes, and I think when we're going to demonstrate some of the exercises, things that we, particularly seniors, can do in their home with very minimal equipment that we can do, as you just said, throughout the day. I always say if you're watching a favorite TV show and there are commercials, you're sitting there, might as well do something during the commercials, or sometimes there's a period of time where it's in between something and you've got a few minutes, and if you kind of know the routine that you've set in your mind even, you can do a couple of those. What I'd like to ask that you tell us, whether it's while we're demonstrating or now, when you said about being underactive in that physical activity, that exercise that we're doing, when do we know, when do I do more of that exercise in terms of my count, because I'm used to going 1 to 8, 1 to 12, when do I do it to 20, or do I do 3 times of those 8 counts? In other words, if you can tell us then which way do I go? Because I could be sitting there all day doing arm curls.
Yeah. So to a large degree, the numbers that sometimes we engage in regards to exercise are often not supported significantly in the literature. So oftentimes we arbitrarily say, we'll do 3 sets of 10 or 2 sets of 15. I think as a general starting point, however, that's probably a good number. And my thought with that is a lot of times, again, the focus with looking at muscle function is really looking at muscle endurance. So when we think of muscle strength is really the ability of a muscle to contract maximally for 1 repetition. Well, not many things that we do in life is one time. Most of it is over a course of time. We're trying to walk down the hall or down the street or to the mailbox or up the stairs. And so when we look at trying to really focus on this concept of developing muscular endurance, generally the principle is to utilize lower weight, lower resistance, but doing higher repetitions. So if we're doing our 3 sets of 10 and we've gotten done with that and we're feeling as though it's going fairly easy, we're not feeling like it's really challenged us or taxed us. One indication for me when I watch patients doing this is oftentimes if they're talking to someone else while they're exercising, it's usually an indication that it's probably too easy for them. So if you're feeling that, it's usually time at that point to try to increase. So either we can increase in regards to the weights that we're using or the resistance that we're using, or we could do more repetitions. And so there are a couple different ways that we can kind of do that. But essentially, to have a change in muscle performance, we've got to overload the muscle. We call that the overload principle. So if we're not really challenging or taxing or overloading that muscle, even minimally, we're probably not having the positive effects that we're looking for.
And then would you clarify, so if I'm at my commercial and I'm doing three sets of 10, and I don't think that that's enough, and do I do at that one time, or do I do it more often during the day?
Yeah, probably at that point, if you're doing that number and you're finding that that's going fairly easy, I would probably begin to add some resistance to that activity.
Okay.
You know, sometimes we can purchase just, you know, very inexpensive, you know, small dumbbell weights that sometimes we can use. I've had people use objects around the house that have a little bit of weight to them. You'll see often resistance bands, and I'll show you a couple exercises with that tonight. So those bands oftentimes can be altered in regards to how much resistance they can provide.
Well, then let's show those. Since you're mentioning that, let's get to the demonstrations of our exercises. So if you'll get set up over there, and I'll introduce our other guest this evening is Joanne Entzminger is with us this evening. You're a brave soul for being here tonight and sharing, helping us to learn from home what we can do with some of these exercises. So thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
All righty. So what would you like to start with?
So I'm going to have Joanne go ahead and stand up for us, Joanne, if you would. And I'm going to use this chair that Joanne's sitting on. I'm going to put it in front of her and have her use this for balance, just to kind of give herself a little bit of support. Joanne, I'm going to have you take a couple steps to the left, just to give us a little room here. And the first exercise that I'm going to use, we always come up with kind of catchy names for these, just so they seem fun, even though sometimes they're not always that fun. Because obviously it's work, and exercise is a little bit of work. But the first exercise is something we call the windshield wiper. And so kind of like you think about your car windshield wiper going, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Joanne actually with her knee straight. I'm going to have her engage in an exercise where she's just bringing the leg out to the side, so back and forth in this fashion.
Okay.
And so we may start off simply by doing an exercise like that. So in this exercise, we're working these really, really important muscles on the side of the hip. These muscles really help to maintain our hip, and they're very, very important for us as we walk and engage in those types of activities. Joanne did that really, really easily, so we're going to make it a little bit harder on her. I always tell people you can't make it look too easy, or else your therapist will make it harder. So I'm going to put this on your left foot here. So I just take this resistance band, okay, and I made a loop at one end of that band, and then with this side we can either tie this to a leg of a table, a leg of a sofa, anything like that. In this case, I'm just going to kind of stand on this and provide some resistance, and I'm just going to ask Joanne to go ahead and do that windshield wiper again, out to the side. So you can see that's a little bit more challenging for her.
And are you feeling that, Joanne?
Yes.
Where do you feel that? As you do
feel it in
up
my
there.
hip.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what's great about this one, Ann, actually is not only are we working the left leg in regards to those hip muscles, but Joanne, if she did several of these over a couple sets here, she would begin to actually feel the right hip working as well.
Yep.
And so she's actually, you know, using the muscles on that left side, but we're actually creating balance and stability on the right leg. So we're kind of, you know, it's kind of serving two purposes and really working both legs at the same time.
Okay. I want to point out too that you're using the chair. You know, you're safe in terms of the way you're doing it by having the balance on the chair. Okay.
And it's something we can certainly, you know, as we progress, we talked about progression, adding resistance, adding repetition. Another way we can actually progress some of these exercises is to actually reduce upper extremity support. So I could actually at some point take that chair away and ask her to do it without the chair. And so there's other ways to kind of work on that. And in that case, we also get a little balance going as well.
All righty. So what else can we do?
So that's the first one. Let me go ahead and unleash Joanne here. Okay. The second one that we can do, and this involves just using a really, really light, what we call cuff weight. And what this is essentially is just a little kind of weighted sandbag here, but it has a little bit of some Velcro. And again, these are sold fairly inexpensively at your local Kmart, Walmart, something like that. And so I'm going to kind of just affix this to Joanne's right ankle here. And just so we can kind of show our viewers, what I'll do is we'll have you turn toward the wall over here.
Okay.
And again, I'm having Joanne holding on to the chair just for balance. And so we call these butt kickers. Okay? Because not only is she attempting with the activity to actually bring that heel up and try to contact her butt, so kind of kick her own butt here, but as you do enough of these, you'll find that they will indeed work to kick your butt as well in regards to a training effect. So these are really good muscles for the hamstrings, the muscles behind your thigh. Sometimes we forget about those guys. We kind of pay attention to think about the front muscles here, but these do a really good job of working.
And what of our everyday activities that we're doing that we need those muscles?
Yeah, so I mean, as we walk, you know, those muscles are important. As we go up and down stairs, those muscles are important. So, you know, this looks like this mundane activity where we're going through these repetitions. But as we said, if we can get folks, you know, kind of focusing on doing these over a period of time and they start to see those results, you know, they're walking up the stairs easier,
Yep.
they're getting up and down off of a chair easier, that's really when we kind of sell people on this. So that's really the key, is if you can hang in there through the first couple weeks, then sometimes we're home free. So that's that exercise, that's great, and again, we're working both sides with that. We can kind of take that chair away if we want to kind of reduce that balance. Other things that we can then do is we can do a few things for the upper extremities as well.
Okay.
So as we're looking at the arms, you know, arm strength is very important as well. Reaching into a cabinet, you know, walking with dishes. We've all gone through the holidays, so you know, picking up that heavy turkey and bringing it to the table. All of those things are very important. So I'm going to have Joanne go ahead and face the camera for me. And a couple exercises that we can do. The one we call is a scarecrow, and so I'm just using, again, light dumbbells here. Many times, again, you can purchase these fairly inexpensively. A lot of times they'll come in a set. So as these are getting easier, we can gradually increase the weight.
Okay.
So I'm going to kind of give these to Joanne, one in each hand. And then what we can do is we can actually have, with the thumbs pointing up out to the side here, I'm going to have you just nice and easy with your elbows straight, just kind of bring your arms up.
Out to the side.
So like I said, we call these the snow angel or the scarecrow.
Okay.
And these do a great job of really strengthening a lot of the muscles around the shoulder. But not only that, because the weight is way out at the hand, we're actually working all the muscles throughout the upper extremity.
Okay.
A couple quick words of caution with this. You always want to kind of lead with the thumb. So as we're going through this exercise, that thumb is going to kind of lead the way. That puts the shoulder in a better position. And then we want to make sure that elbow is straight. And typically, we don't want to come up above horizontal. So once we start getting up here, sometimes, you know, we can create some issues with the shoulder. And there are some other exercises we can do for that, but we want to be careful with this particular one.
Okay, another one for the arm.
Okay, the other one is, we call this one the beach muscle exercise. Okay, so, you know, when we're getting ready for the summertime and we want to have our big biceps here, our big guns, one exercise that we can do is just nice and easily with the palm facing up, is we can just kind of have the individual bend their elbow and straight back down again.
Okay.
Now, a lot of times people end up doing this, you know, with both arms at a time.
Yes.
And when that happens, a lot of times we begin to kind of sway and we start to get the back involved, and before long our back starts to hurt. At the very least, we're not really concentrating on this muscle. So oftentimes what I'll have people do is alternate. So I'll have them come up with the right and then come up with the left.
Okie dokie.
And then the right, so we can kind of alternate back and forth. It's a little more time efficient, but we're really focusing on working on the muscle in the front of the arm there.
Okay.
Okay. Likewise, I'm going to take these now from Joanne. We can do what we call our hammer exercise, and that can be done with the dumbbell as well, or a lot of times what I like to do is use the band here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give this band to Joanne and have her hold on to that, and I'm going to have her bring up her arm like this and bend her elbow. And with your left arm, just let me have you put that under here for me.
Okay.
So her left arm is supporting her right arm, okay? And then what she's concentrating on with this is just like she's hammering, okay? She's hammering into the wall.
Okay.
And what we can do is we can tie this band onto a pole, you know, you can hold it, anything, or I could give her a weight in her hand. And so this one here, this is a popular exercise that a lot of women like because it really works on the back of the arm here, which is an area that's real important, not only for looks, but obviously for function as well.
Sure.
And then finally, we have our balanced disc here, which you can really work. Now this is a real challenge. Many of people don't have this at home, but you can use a pillow, you can use any sort of unstable surface. Certainly with this one, we're going to want to make sure that Joanne holds on here. So let's have you face the wall for me, Joanne. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down and I'm going to guard her. So I'm going to kind of hold on to her arms.
Okay.
As she steps onto this. And she can...
I'm going to step over the other one first.
There you go. And she can hold on to the chair, and I can hold on to her as well. We can do things like weight shifting, so side to side weight shifting.
Okay.
So we're working the muscles here. We're also working on balance.
Okay.
Right? We can do that with eyes open. If you want a real challenge, we can do it with the eyes closed.
Okay.
And notice that this is something that, you know, she's going to need supervision with, and most people will. So just make sure someone is around that's able to kind of help you out and give you a little support.
Okay.
That's great.
Good.
Joanne, you can step off of that for me.
One of the things that we have like 1 minute left, but one of the other balance things that we have in our Healthy Steps class is the tightrope. You know what I mean? Where maybe if she could just put one foot in front of the other
Yes.
there and show that one real quick.
So go ahead and
'cause you
face
can
the
do
chair
that by
for me.
yourself, you know?
And then kind of like your
Yeah.
feet like this.
As if
for
you're going to
me.
walk a tightrope.
There you go. Good.
And then, and then as you said, the level. So that would be one way, and then you reduce take your hands away. And then eventually, if you're holding on to something like this where you have a table, a countertop, you could tightrope walk.
Correct.
Which will help
Yep.
with that balance like you were just showing. If
Absolutely.
we don't have this fancy thing or
Absolutely.
not somebody with us necessarily. Thank you. That's
Sure.
great. We're running
Joanne.
out of time. Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
One of the other things that I do want to say is that, again, these are very simple things that you can do in your home. You can also do them seated. So some of those things she could have been sitting doing some
Absolutely.
of those things, and it would be okay too if she had some issues with that until she built up perhaps some of the leg
Absolutely.
muscles. If we wrap it up, what would you say is one last thing you'd like the audience to know?
I'd just
as
like
we
to
leave?
encourage people, as we're in this new year, to really just kind of get up and get moving.
And I always say if you don't use it, you're going to lose it,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So thank you for tuning in, and good luck with your physical fitness New Year's resolutions.